This meeting is called to order. Reno City Council, March 13, 2017. Please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and Texas flags.
Shall we pray? Our Father and our God, we are so thankful for the gift of life that you've given to each one of us. And Lord, we pray that you'd help us in this meeting this evening to not just do that which is right, but for us to know that which is right. Lord, we pray that you'd help this meeting to be profitable unto our community as a whole and to our citizens in particular. And Lord, we pray that you'd bless our lives to your service. Forgive us where we've failed you, where we've sinned against you, for we ask it in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Roll call.
Brandon Thomas.
Here.
Rick Jordan.
Here.
Tom Brandenburg.
Present.
Amanda Willows. Let the record show absent Amanda Willows. Also present Mayor Bart Jeton, City Attorney David Hamilton, and Interim City Secretary Tricia Smith taping the minutes.
No one signed up for citizens' comments, so we'll move down to Item 7, consent item, discuss, take action on A, monthly bills and purchase orders for February 2017. B, minutes for February 2017 City Council meetings. C, financial update for February 2017. And D, monthly activity reports for February 2017 from 1, Police Department, 2, Public Works Department, and 3, Reno Volunteer Fire Department.
Mayor, move to go ahead and approve item 7, A through D, 1, 2, and 3.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thomas, seconded by Councilmember Brandenburg, to approve consent items 7, A through D, and 1 through 3. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move down to item 8A, annual municipal audit for 2015-2016 fiscal year. Jonna McNeil is present. I'm wasting your time. You cost too much.
That's right. That's right. Ridiculous.
Mr. Preston, you're next.
How are you, John?
I'm good. So you guys got a draft in your packet. Did you have any questions that came to mind just right off the bat for me? This is a letter I need to give to you to put in your files. It just said we didn't have any problems, issues, concerns, everything went as planned. Didn't have to mitigate anything. Any other experts involved? So no questions for me?
That was a management letter you just gave, and it says no issue.
That's actually a governance letter, and it's a letter that auditors give to those in charge of governance that just would let you know if I did run into any problems, if there was any legal matters that we had to attend to as far as second opinions, if there were any major adjustments to the financial statements that were a problem, it would be in that letter for you. It also attached to that are any adjustments to your financial statements. We did not issue a management letter this year. Those are basically internal control letters. We do sometimes if we have something that we feel like is a material weakness or there are some major problems or concerns that we need to bring to your attention with the way your processing is working. We did have to study your processing a little bit more this year because You actually have, I think actually in this year, we had Kara for part of the year as the city secretary, and then we had a change in city secretary, and then we had another change in city secretary. And so anytime that you have a change in staff, or change in procedures, a change in how things are aligned, or how many people you have in your office, we have to look at your internal controls in each one of those stages, just to make sure that, say, whenever the first city secretary left, and then you changed over to, there was a period of time that you didn't have, your office might have been less one staff person. And so do we see that the internal controls are picked up, and that matters are taken into consideration to pick up for that person that left until we get another person in? Then when the next person comes in, we look to see, did they make major changes in the way the internal controls were structured? Did they want something done different that maybe it might have strengthened or it could have weakened the internal controls? So we look at that. And then again, when we have a loss, we look to see how that transition takes place. It appeared to us that during the period of time that you had all the transition, that basically your bases were being covered, that you still had people signing off and doing their jobs, following through with procedures. We do want to make sure that any procedures that we have that involve cash, that's money that's coming in, that people dropping off bills, that we make sure that we count the money down appropriately at the end of the day, that we have as few people sharing tills as possible, some of those kinds of things. But when you're a really small organization, it's very hard sometimes to have internal controls that you might see if, say, you were at the bank, where no one would ever work out of the same cash drawer as someone else, or, you know, the tills are counted down a couple of times a day, that kind of thing. But as far as just major issues for the city, we didn't identify any this year that we felt like we needed to put in a letter. You will see that throughout the year, or even now as we wrap up this audit, there will be some conversations between the ladies in my office and the staff here, just to say, okay, these are the things that we saw that you might want to consider making changes with. And we'll go over all of those with Tricia at another time, but it wasn't anything that we felt like that the council should have to be involved in or have to worry about. Your financial statement this year is very similar to what you've had in the past. There's not any major accounting changes that came about for this year. I think most of you on the board have seen the financials before, and so you kind of know how they work. So I just want to draw your attention to page 11. And your opinion on your financial statements is what we call an unmodified opinion. And that's the highest opinion that we can give. We're not holding back or saying that except for some particular purpose or reason the financial statements are not in compliance with GAAP. We're basically saying that that they appear to be in compliance. If you look on page 11, this is where you'll see your general fund, your Reno Crime Control Prevention, Debt Service Fund, and your other governmental funds. And so this just kind of lets you see the assets and the liabilities of those funds if you want to take a quick look at those. Your other governmental funds basically consist of your special revenue funds, monies that you have that are set aside for a particular purpose. The reason that Reno Crime Control Prevention District and the Debt Service Fund get their own column is because the activity that's in them is considered significant to the government as a whole. And so you'll see that sometimes it might be significant because there's a lot of cash in the fund, but it also might be significant because a lot of activity came in and out of the fund for the year. And so if you flip then to page 14 and 15, you can see the revenues and the expenses for each one of those same funds that we just looked at the balance sheet for. This year you did have, something very different in the, I believe it's the Union Grove Cemetery, okay? That's set up in a special revenue fund because, along with the land that you received for that, you also received some cash that would be restricted for the purposes of upkeep, maintenance, and all of that cemetery. And so that money is set aside in the special fund, and it'll be restricted, of course, for those purposes. And that is accounted for in this other governmental column, so you don't see it just out by itself. Its activity wasn't large enough that would require it to have its own fund on the financial statements. But on the general ledger, it has its own fund. If you look on page 18, this is the activity of your water and sewer fund. So here you can see your water sales, sewer charges, service fees, and then you'll see the expenses that you have for that. And then the changes in that towards the bottom. Currently, under accounting standards only, the enterprise fund, or the water sewer fund, is a cash flow statement, but you can see that on page 19. We don't do a cash flow statement. It's not required by standards for the general fund and the special revenue funds. That's kind of something that's up in the air now. We may see that over the next several years that may change, but for now we just have that presented for the water sewer fund. And that's really because that fund is on a full accrual basis, and it's trying to pay for itself, its activity. And your general fund, you report it more along on a cash basis of what just comes in and what comes out. Not that many things that, when you look at the financial statement of the government, of the general fund, you can kind of tell what the cash flow in and the cash flow out is. Where when you have something like the system fund, where you're billing for accounts receivable and you have more accounts payable, and the way the debt is reported, you see that have a cash flow statement. The notes to your financial statements are next. Those are very similar to the notes that you've had in the previous years. Not a lot of change that's going on there. Like I said, there's not any significant new accounting standards. We went through the GASB 68 standard where we had to put your pension information on the financial statements, and so last year was the first time in the financial statements that you'd seen that. But no major change like that this year. If you're there is pages after pages, several pages in here that deal with your pension. And so if you want to take an opportunity to read that, if you suffer from insomnia, it might be a good help. On page 36, you'll see a report that is about your budget to actual comparison. This is just for your general fund. And what's important to come out of that financial statement is that you are staying within your budget as far as your expenditures are concerned. And you'll also see that you're not making, if you look at your final budget and your original budget columns, you're seeing that you're not having to make significant changes to your budget during the year. And that's good because that shows good foresight on your behalf in budget planning. You also see on page 37, there is a budget comparison for your debt service fund. Debt service has just a little bit of a fund balance in it. Not a lot there. The report that you see at the back of the financials is, we call it the Yellow Book report. It's on government auditing standards. And in this financial statement, you would find under the bold heading where it says internal controls over financial reporting. If we had seen something that we felt like was a significant deficiency or a material weakness, we would have put that and described that in that section for you. Sometimes people are audited and they feel like that auditors look at everything and that there couldn't possibly be any issue if the audit gives a clean opinion. But we want to make sure that you do understand that an auditor doesn't look at every transaction, and that we are assessing what's going on at your entity, and that we are sampling your transactions to then give you an opinion based upon that sampling of transactions and what we see. But It's always very important that you assess your risk yourself and think about where are the places at the city that something can go wrong, and if it could go wrong, what are we doing to correct that? And how are we trying to mitigate those problems? And then the second bold section that you'll see on that report is your compliance and other matters. And this has to do with your compliance with laws, rules, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements. If we found something during the course of our audit that we felt like it was material to the entity that was a problem with these compliance areas, you would find it in that section. We didn't have any findings like that. And if you're not one to really read financial statements and you just want to read a narrative, you'll find on page 3 through 8 just kind of a dialogue of the financial statements, and it's an easy read that gives you some comparatives from one year to the next. That might be something that you want to take a closer look at if you have not had an opportunity with your draft. And then, like I said, your opinion on your financial statements is an unmodified opinion. And so that's the best opinion that you can get. I did have a conversation today with, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the company that your IT.
TSM.
In Rockwall, is that, okay. I did speak with him today about your backup for your computer system, because we were just, updating our information about what could go wrong. And when I spoke with him today and asked him about off-site backup, so that if you had a situation where a tornado came through or you had a fire or something like that, and you lost your computer systems and your server system here, what is our what is our plan for how we would recover that data? And he did say today that right now, we do not have off-site backup. And so if we had something like that, we would lose our data. And that his company is working on solving that solution. And one of the situations had been something about maybe the bandwidth and the internet provider that we had before or something was not able to support us being able to do the type of off-site backup that they were looking for, which would back up to their headquarters in Rockwall, I think was the way he was explaining it. So he said that they were in the process of addressing that issue and trying to correct it. I do think that that is something that you should monitor and make sure that it does happen, because if they're not able to get what they consider to be their best solution of being able to have the backup at their headquarters, we need to determine what our backup looks like. And so are we going to try to utilize some other way of an off-site backup? I don't know the size of the file that it would take or the storage that it would take to actually back you up and back it up properly somewhere so that you wouldn't have that type of a risk. But because of all of the system that you're using, I did want to make sure that you were aware of that at this point, it could be a natural disaster, could be a disaster on multiple levels if we didn't try to have to recover the system. And so that's my presentation for you tonight. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
I've got a couple.
Okay.
On page 8, the note payable is $360,000. Last year was $57,000. Do we know what that was for?
The note that we have was for, what pieces of equipment was that? Is that the meter? The new
Water meter. Oh, okay.
new water, yeah.
That and, let's see. On that same page at the top, it says at the year end, the city had $2,299,000. in bond notes outstanding. Last year, we had $2,237,000 in bonds outstanding. How could that be then?
Well, it includes the bonds and the notes. And so that large new note is affecting that.
Okay.
And I'll show you a place in the, let me turn to the, look at page 29. Page 29 shows you the beginning balance of each loan that you have, and then it shows you the activity of how it was increased or decreased, what the payments were, and then the ending activity. And then you will find on page 29, there's a little narrative description of each one of your bonds. And then there's also, as you go on to say page 30, 31, you'll find some descriptions of your notes, what those are for, the collateral for them, or the purpose behind purchasing them. And so we, while notes and bonds are different in nature, we include them together as far as they're both long-term debt. But that's your big difference this year. So as you're paying down, you did pay down on your bonds and you did pay down on some notes, then we also had that large increase. Any other questions?
I think I got one more.
Okay.
I think it's I'll say it did. Okay, yeah, on page 6.
Okay.
Towards the bottom where it says transfers in and out. Was that water meter project? Now it looks like the same amount.
Well,
353,000.
I was on top. Transfer. To go back and look at the detail, but I think what's going on there is that the general fund, there is some debt that is shared somewhat between the general fund and the system fund. And we transfer money from the general fund over into the system fund to assist with those debt payments.
For the bond payment.
And I can look to see if that's all of what that is. Sometimes you see some transferring that's happening for operations or something like that because and sometimes you'll see maybe there's a transaction that we need to report over in one fund, but the other fund is helping them with it. But I'm pretty sure, without looking at the detail, that's what the bulk of that situation is it's helping to assist with the debt payment.
Right, okay.
Just stick out as a large number down there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but the year before that, it was like 110,000. Last year was 112, then it went to 353 now. So,
But we can look at that and send you an email to show you exactly what all of those transactions are. But can you think of anything else that we?
I think it would be the water meter project.
Any other questions? If you get home tonight and you think of them while you're not sleeping, just call me tomorrow. I'll be happy to, well, I've got all the general ledger out there. I can try to go through and answer any question that you have.
I thought you were gonna say, go ahead and call me tonight.
You could do that. You could do that. It's tax season. I'll be up.
There you go.
We'll sleep when April gets here. All right, well, thank you so much for the opportunity to do your audit. We enjoy being here. And if you do run into anything during the year, please don't hesitate to call us. We're happy to help you in any way that we can. And if you do have any questions after tonight that you think of and you just wonder and you go back and read through the financial statements some more, don't hesitate to call me. I'll be happy to help you with anything that I can.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
To approve it.
Mayor, I move to go ahead and approve the annual municipal audit for 2015-2016 fiscal year.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thomas, seconded by Councilmember Brannenberg to accept the annual municipal audit for 2015-2016 fiscal year. All in favor?
Aye.
Move down to item 8B, drainage problem at 2080 North Post Oak Lane.
Preston, I represent Mrs. Dickey. As it relates to this problem, we're here hoping that we can work out a solution in a professional and amiable manner relating to the damages that she feels like that she has suffered as a result of things that have happened since she's been there. She's lived in this house 32 plus years, never had a problem with drainage until then. They put in that double culvert, which was just, it's sort of slanted across the street in front of her house to the north. And it's draining water from that field to the south up there, coming down behind the house. It's the first house on the street. Now, I don't know who built these houses in there, but obviously it had to have the city of Reno's approval if you all had that in your city at that time. And also FHA's approval and conditions. According to Mr. Hamilton's letter to me, it indicated that this little ditch, and he called it a creek in his letter. Well, creek to me is usually named. Ditches are something that develop because the water flows naturally from the topography of the land, you see. So this looks like a ditch. I just examined it. I hadn't been there before about 5:15 and 5:30 today. So I went by there and looked at it. So I'd have a halfway intelligently discuss and talk about it. But in looking at the two culverts, they take the water off the field that runs back behind the house that's across the street and comes down through there. And evidently they approved if this ditch did run over Mrs. Dickey's property before they built the house, evidently somebody approved it to be diverted a few feet north where the ditch now runs today. And water was standing in that where these two culverts lets the water run through. Water is standing in there right now. It's got a lot of water in there. And I looked down the ditch, so to speak, to the east, and there are blockages in this ditch. Somebody going in there with some sort of deal and take out the fill that's in the ditch, allowing the water to go on further east, it would probably solve some of the problems. But she never had any water in her house all the years she's lived there. And she doesn't know, said it's several years when you all put the culverts in on that North Post Oak Lane. And she never had a problem with water in her house till that was done. I also noticed, and it called my attention, the house just to the south of her has a concrete driveway that's been built in there with a drainage ditch that goes under his property and her property also, I believe, coming out on her property, flowing into this same ditch where the two culverts are. So somehow or another, this is not being maintained to continue the water flow that's been in there all the time after the house was built. And of course, I don't know who the contractor was, but it's not uncommon for contractors to bring in fill to put in there to be able to meet the standards that the city would require, as well as FHA. And Mrs. Dickey acquired this property from FHA about 32 years ago. So she has not had a problem. And I know your records. I don't know what your records are, but your record will reflect when you all put in the two culverts. And we're asking for you all to give her some help. She's a widow, elderly lady that's taking care of a grandchild, has no monies. As a matter of fact, I'm pro bono here tonight. I was pro bono when I wrote the letter. But we as lawyers owe a certain responsibility, David, to give back. And we do. We both have done it. We're probably the only profession, and I'm not complaining, I'm just happy to be a lawyer. We're the only professional people that are forced to do work. We have to take appointments on criminal, on civil. When Washington or Austin passes a law says that person has to have a lawyer, Mr. Hamilton is appointed, or I'm appointed, or some other one. And we do it. And we do that. But in this case, I feel like my time would be well spent helping Mrs. Dickey if I could, and also with calling for you all to help her. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. Ms. Dickey is present. She will answer any questions. Have I left anything out? That's my summation of the deal. And we're asking for help. Not trying to lay the trails or anything like that. We're just asking for help.
Well, we will clean the ditch. We will get it flowing.
Yeah, it looks
I mean,
like it is collected.
if the elevations aren't high enough that it's going to flow, there's nothing we can do about that.
Well, I understand that.
But if it's a city ditch, we'll clean the ditch. We'll get it flowing out of there.
It looks like that her house is the lowest one in there.
It is.
It does.
I mean, that's what when I was out there. But why has she only had a flooding problem since the culverts were put in there?
How long have the culverts been in there? Do you know?
I'm sorry?
How long have the culverts been in there?
When did they put them in?
Do you know approximately?
Anyone know?
When was the culvert replaced?
I don't know exactly when the culverts were put in. The last time any of the road work was done there, which I think mentioned that she thought was done when they did the road work, that was 2002.
But they would have,
Prior to that.
they would have put in probably larger, better culverts to,
Yeah, I'm sure they're bigger than the ones that were in there before.
Right.
It's got a concrete, the way it was poured on one end.
right.
sure it was bid out.
George, you know who owns the ditch? Because I don't, my concern is whether or not the city has an easement to go in there and move people's dirt around.
I'm of the opinion that the person who platted that thing and built all those houses in there, he moved that ditch about 10 or 15 feet so he could have 2 lots instead of losing a bunch. Now, you're not supposed to guess in law, you're supposed to know, but.
We checked back into this, Mr. Preston, and we had a council meeting, I guess, about 10 days ago. The house was built in 1981.
Okay.
There was no permit issued. I don't know that.
From the city?
From the city.
I'm not even sure we had
At the time.
zoning ordinances
Yeah.
then.
And no doubt probably didn't. I don't know for a fact, but if I was a betting man, it's Hayden Swain.
Well, that's what I think I was
Yeah.
led to believe.
He developed that out there. And I knew different ones back at the time that got in those houses through the FHA because he had connections or he could do the paperwork or forward it, whatever. I could be wrong, but, and so there we have the issue, it's sitting in a creek bed.
Well, of course, the FHA, you all know, and I know, they would never approve it for a loan if it didn't meet the requirements. The topography and drainage and all that sort of stuff, they look at trying to, not to invest in a home or properties that is in floodplain. I mean, that's one of the first things FHA, the government, will do. And FHA's been doing that ever since I can remember, and I'm older than anybody around here.
Well, maybe. I'm not too sure. I have a copy of the deed, and the deed is one without warranty. And it specifically says that we're not going to give you any kind of express or implied warranty, and it says that twice on that. And that's a deed, you're right, it's from the United States of America. To your, I do not know. All I can say is I'm looking at a copy of the deed right now, and it says that this is a deed without warranty, and specifically, the United States as the grantor does not make any implied or express warranties to Miss Dickey when she bought it. It's dated August of 1980.
Contractor.
I guess so. If it was built in '81, I've looked at the city codes, and our first ordinance for building regulations was like in 1985. There's been several of them since then. The floodplain ordinance didn't come along for, gosh, till about 10 years ago. So there was not an ordinance out there when the house was constructed that I can find.
Well, I don't know the history of how y'all know down here the different ordinances and that sort of thing. I know in the beginning you don't have one.
Yep.
The bigger you get, the more that you have to control. I know that. But the thing is, but we're not trying to, we won't just ask you for her.
We will clean the ditch. We will clean it out
See how
across the street.
how
That
works.
ditch is getting
But in looking down through there.
obstructed bad.
It had 2 or 3 places it had filled in and backing the water up to the culverts. See, and it's not flowing in. Okay?
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do we need action on motion on that?
I thought that's why we saved this, is so they could get some sort of definitive answer, but they walked out, so. If the city has got an easement down there to get out there and do that kind of stuff, you can clean out the ditch, but now, the caveat is this. my understanding was that the engineers are concerned if you start working on the ditch or the creek bed, that the foundation of the home may be weakened.
In other
to
words,
the
we go in and
extent
make something
that it
worse.
could become a mudslide. And if you're out there with mechanical equipment doing stuff and the house falls in, then you really do have some liability issues.
I just want to point out one thing. We don't have any easement, any kind of getting into the ditch, or any way to get into the ditch right now.
You talking about the one across the street from our house, where that creek comes through there? It's just totally trashed.
The one across the street?
It goes behind the house
I don't know
across
that we
the
actually
street.
have an easement through there either, but it would be, we could probably get in there and clean some debris out of it. You know, the other way, there's no way you can get in that ditch between the two houses. The only way would be to go around some other direction. And that would be, we'd have to get some of that bidded out like we did before. But
Well, we just have to look at it and do what we can do, and besides that, if we can't do it, you can't do it. But we can do what we can do, and that's all we can do.
Well, we've already been told that we're, based upon what we did with culverts back 2002, that we could have created a problem then. I mean, this is basically the gist of what Mr. Preston was saying, what Ms. Dickey, how she feels about it. And so as Mr. Hamilton says, we get in there and start doing other things and we can be liable.
Well, what I'm talking about, what it sounds like to me is there's some, the culvert across the road from her house may be experiencing some stoppage or some debris or something in there. And certainly cleaning that out, if there's an easement, would be okay. I'm just really concerned about going down there and digging around her house
No,
where it falls off into the creek. And then she comes in here and says, guess what? You guys came out there to help me and no good deed goes unpunished. My house is now in the creek. And so that's an issue. But if you guys want to leave it at him cleaning that up and then stopping, that's good.
Get the debris out of it.
Is that okay,
I
Jerry?
believe that's a possibility. The other side, we can definitely get in there and clean something.
I'm not even talking about going on her property.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just cleaning it out across the street where this wall of water don't build up and then come flowing over these trees that are in there, and then here it comes a tidal wave.
Sure.
That's more.
That's basically what's happening,
Could be.
from what I've seen.
This may be the time of year to do it too, before it gets,
That one, we could probably get a piece of equipment in there to do it.
okay.
In there, got some trees, other things like that. The other one where there's just no way to get in there.
Right.
How you
Can,
coming from some other direction.
will you do some like before and after pictures for your file? Here's what it looked like before, and here's what we did. Okay.
I didn't sign up, but I think I can add to the discussion. We met 9 months ago.
Tell us who you are so the record will show it.
I'm Gary Brown, and I'm the adjacent landowner.
Right. Well, I know, but the recorder doesn't.
I know. Bart and Rick and you and I, Jerry met 9 months ago and discussed this, trying to come up with a resolution. And I guess Phyllis, being 84 years old, I've seen the damage it did to her house. I've seen how much water went into it. We originally thought that taking that drainage ditch straight through my property to that big ditch might be the solution. We got the Roddy brothers out there, and I forget who met with us. Did you come out there that day?
I wasn't there today, one of my guys was.
Okay. And they seem to think that taking that ditch straight, because it makes a 90-degree turn as soon as it gets to my property, that's part of what's backing it up. But they said that, hey, that wouldn't probably fix it. It needed to be cleaned out, and it needed where those two huge culverts are. And I think what Phyllis and George is saying is that this problem really started after the two new culverts went in. Because they're huge. They're 3 or 4 foot culverts. 36. So apparently when the road repair was done in 2002, they put 2 instead of 1 in, and it doubled what could go under that road. But what has happened is on both sides of those culverts, the water is eat out below those culverts, so you've got 2 feet of water that stands all the time on both sides of that road, which her concerns are the water hazard, mosquitoes, and snakes. And so there is no easement. We discovered that 9 months ago. There is no easement. It's both landowners on both sides, I guess, will both probably give you permission. Regina, who's up here a lot complaining and has been in the past, and Phyllis. They'll give you permission to get the equipment in there to clean it out. It looks like if it's cleaned out, and I don't know what the engineer's report says, I'd like to see it and read it. Did they have an opinion on what would fix her concern?
What I've read is they really can't say there is a fix for it because of all the various issues that they've got. They wouldn't say, yeah, if you do this, she's never going to be underwater again. They're not willing to say that. They got ideas on what might help, but there's not a fix because of the location.
Well, what the Roddy brothers suggested was on both sides pouring concrete where both of those culverts go under the street, which would keep it from continually digging that out, and it would assist the water flow. Plus clean the ditch out. That might give her the relief that she's looking for.
Take that and read it.
And another thing is that rain that created her flood was a record-setting rainfall, I think, in Lamar County.
Oh, yeah.
So it may not ever happen again.
30-year flood.
But I'm not an engineer. But just by looking at that ditch, if it's cleaned out, I think it'll do a lot of good to move that water faster through that area where it's just got all kinds of silt built up. So
Now, where are you talking about cleaning it out?
it needs to be cleaned out on both sides. And you can go through my pasture to get through to that east end of her ditch. So the ditch starts at Barnes Road. The homeowner up there had a flooding problem in that same rain. But if you go up there and look at the ditch, it's full of junk. I'm talking like there's an old washer or dryer in the ditch. There's all kinds of debris in that ditch. So that whole ditch needs to be cleaned out. Again, you probably don't have an easement, but still we've got a problem with water flow. Last time I was here, y'all did address and fix a water flow problem in Pine Valley. I assume it's fixed. There's several homeowners waiting to see when it rains because it looks like the water's got to run uphill to get into those new culverts, but that's neither here nor there. I guess time will tell on that one. I think the city spent about $32,000 on that drainage problem. Do you have easements on that?
Yep.
Okay. That's a little bit different situation. But she's got a problem. She's 84 years old. She's raising, it's not her grandson, it's her great-grandson, about 4 years old. So her concern is, the kid getting out there, falling in, drowning, getting snake bit. It's a problem. So just as good citizens, I would just urge, I'll do whatever I need to do, give you access to clean the ditch out. You can extend the ditch further into my property before you turn it. I'll do whatever I can do to assist y'all in helping her. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
We need any action on this, Mr. Attorney?
We'll skip down to item 8J, memorandum of understanding MOU between Reno Police Department and North Lamar Independent School District Police Department. Mr. Mike Bose.
It's not Mike. Oh.
Make me look short. In your packet, you've got a copy of the MOU that is this one right here stated that myself, the attorney David Hamilton, and Mike Bose, Officer Mike Bose, came up with. Basically, if you read the paper here in the last month or so, North Lamar voted to start their own police department. Part of starting that police department is getting some of the things in order to get their agency status set up with the state.
Yeah, we have to do a memorandum of understanding, I'm sorry, with any overlapping jurisdiction, which of course we know most of our district is in there. So I think we kind of split it with Prairie Land a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. But we, just in case of any type of incident that might happen with some North Lamar kids or, God forbid, mass casualty, critical incident of any kind, we could help you guys. You guys could possibly help us. It's just an agreement that's, I've got one with the Sheriff's Office. The City of Paris is also, we're going to have one with them as well. But if y'all got any questions, I'll be glad to hopefully answer.
I guess, Mike, where this would primarily affect us would be the school buses, right?
Yes, sir, I would say so, but we also,
Kids on those buses.
after speaking with David, called him, or I called him, there are times where Reno may come up and need to talk to some of our kids with any type of investigations, or he may need to come out here to talk to some kids. Just to give you an idea too, there's 405 square miles of district in North Lamar ISD, and that is the jurisdiction when you become an ISD district. So that's, with that being said, we're kind of overlap, and that's why we would probably need this more than not. It shows the state that the cooperation is there, and that they like to see everybody helping everybody. So.
The MOU really doesn't provide any more services for each other that we're already doing.
Right.
We get calls at North Lamar, something happened with a kid, something that happened here in Reno the night prior or whatever. Same thing. They'll have something with a kid that's reported there at school that might have happened out here. They'll work with us, we work with them. It's just reciprocal type deal.
One of the things that got put in there is that whichever department generates the data, they retain ownership interest in that data. So if there is an open records request that's received, those two guys got to get together and say, whose data is this? Okay, tag, it's yours.
Yeah.
That's your business. You respond to that, not me.
That's basically what we're doing now.
We do that now.
If we start it, it's our report basically, so it would be our problem to deal with if there is a public information request. Same thing with that. And lots of times, if it's some kind of major investigation, there'll be reports on both sides that go the same thing. So they might have to actually request the information from both agencies.
I've learned something tonight.
It's all
You can go home.
online.
I think this is an effort just to formalize what's already taking place. Basically.
And mainly because they're starting our
Well, Mayor, I move to go ahead and approve the memorandum of understanding between Reno Police Department and North Lamar ISD Police Department.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thomas, seconded by Councilmember Brandenburg to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Reno Police Department and North Lamar Independent School District Police Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mike.
What about me, Mike?
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Always. Thank you. I'll be mine.
I'll be seeing you.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Back to item 8C, review Article 3.02 and Article 14 of 10.005 of the Code of Ordinances. Composition, authority, orientation of city council members, or council committees.
During the TML conference this year, the staff heads, department heads, and I were sitting around talking, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be a great idea to have kind of an orientation manual for newly elected or re-elected city council people and those people who get appointed to all the different boards. So they'll know, here's what your board, here's what your committee does, here's your authority, here's the policy, blah, blah, so that they can get oriented to it. Yeah, that's a great idea. So started working on it on and off, and now with the elections coming up, that needs to be done sooner as opposed to later, because there'll be appointments in June. So I put the pedal to the metal. Come to find out, there are some significant, I think there are inconsistencies in the code. Did everybody got this last little memo thing that I sent out? Just let me give you an example. Article 3.02 is in our building regulations, and it establishes a thing called the Board of Appeals. Well, I've never seen the Board of Appeals get appointed out here by anyone. It's a three-person board. They have decision-making authority, and they hear cases involving the international building code and the electrical code and about 6 others. The problem is, after that board was set up, and those things are specified in that article, here's the 6 things they can do. Well, after that, we adopted about 8 or 10 more things, not in there. So, like the swimming pool code, I didn't even know there was such a thing, but there is a code about swimming pools. There's one on amusement rides and that. So they're afterwards, and they're not, it wasn't amended to put that in there. And then the floodplain ordinance is in there, and variances for construction in the floodplain are approved by the Board of Appeals. Now, we've never had one, and we've never had a variance requested, but if we ever did, that's what you're faced with. And it is a decision-making board. If something goes to the Board of Appeals, you, as a city council, never hear about it. I mean, you might hear about it, but you will not be the decision makers in that, because that board makes those decisions, and from that, any appeal is straight to court. Well, and if you read that, there's issues with the Building Standards Commission. Now, somebody help me remember it. The City Council is not the Building Standards Commission. It is the Zoning Commission. We call it the Planning and Zoning Board, but the language in our ordinances doesn't say that anywhere. It calls it the Zoning Commission. So, what you call it may not make a hill of beans, but the Zoning Commission is also the Board of Standards. Now look, here's the deal. If you're on that board and you're doing your volunteer public service, when you come and sit as the Zoning Commission, all your decisions are advisory. That means they get appealed to here. If it sits as the Building Standards Commission, the decisions are the decisions. That's it. Appeal from that is to court. Now that's a very subtle and difficult hair to split, but that's what these people are being asked to do. And we have had a meeting of the Building and Standards Commission here a long time ago in the Kingdom by the Sea, and it was tense. Because you're telling people you're either going to take your building down or we're going to tear it down for you. And here's the reason why. And that particular board, the Building and Standard Commission, has extensive authority. They can subpoena people, they can hold people in contempt, all kinds of good things. So that's another issue. And then we have my favorite, and yes, your favorite too, you know it, you love it, the Board of Adjustments. There are two different kinds. In the city ordinances, there's a Board of Adjustments that is advisory only. And guess what? If it's not populated, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those poor schmucks are getting this. They get hit everywhere you go, okay? So if you don't have a Board of Adjustments that's got people appointed to you, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission. If you do, then here's the problem. It is advisory only if it's under our city ordinances. Well, here's the circus that you got. Right now, the city council is the Board of Adjustments. So what you would actually have to do, if you're following our ordinance correctly, is you would have to have a meeting and say, we're going to advise ourselves that we don't like that. And then you have to quit, and then you have to have another meeting at the city council that says, what did we just tell ourselves that we didn't like? Oh yeah, and then you have to vote again. That's the process you have to follow. Because the zoning ordinances don't say that this Board of Adjustments is set up consistent with the local government code. If that magic language were in there, then the Board of Adjustments decision is final. There's not an appeal to the city council. If you still want to do that job, the local government code says you are more than welcome to appoint yourself to be the Board of Adjustments. You see how complicated this is? And so it's there's a lot of ifs and whens and hows. My suggestion to you is to take the Board of Appeals, just get rid of it. I don't know why it's even in there, but I would make the Board of Adjustments have all be hearing all the cases about building regulations and variances from the flood prevention thing, and I would just take those out of there. Then you got to decide if you want the Board of Adjustments to be statutory or consistent with the ordinance. If it's statutory, then the P&Z would not be involved in it at all. If somebody's upset with the zoning decision, then there's a hearing before whoever the Board of Adjustments is, and it could still be the city council. And that way you cut out a lot of this redundancy that seems to be going on, and then you guys make the decision. Or you can appoint a Board of Adjustments and just say, we want you guys to do it, period.
Is this for every type A city?
Well, every type A city has the option under the statute to make themselves the Board of Adjustments. But only a type A city. In a city that's type B or one that has a charter, there's not an option to self-appoint yourselves as the Board of Adjustments.
What, David, again, is the pro and con being of making the Board of Adjustment statutory versus under ordinance?
Well, it cuts out the redundancy in the ordinance. If you maintain that job description, then you would have to have one meeting and make a recommendation. Then you would have to have that another meeting, everybody change hats, change seats, sit down, and say we're voting again. If you said we don't want to be the Board of Adjustments, then you've got to appoint people to be the Board of Adjustments, or you got to tell the P&Z you're going to be the Board of Adjustments. They do it, and then it comes here.
That's under statutory.
No, that's under the ordinance. So if it's statutory, you cut all that business out.
All right.
And you either say the buck stops here with you guys, or we're going to appoint a panel of 5 people and they're going to decide these things and we're not going to do it. And I'll say this, I think that we need to look at how to recruit people to be on the different boards, because who can name all the boards the city has? Trish probably can. And if the obligation is up to you as members of the council to find somebody to sit on every one of those. Your mother-in-law and your sister-in-law, and you're gonna have your whole family down here doing city government. And that may not be the best thing to have a topic at Thanksgiving or Christmas about. You know, might not be the best kind of relationship builder. So there are ways to recruit those and have people actually fill out a little form so they can be vetted. And as the city gets bigger, I think you guys are gonna run yourself crazy, if that's just the way it looks to me, to try to get somebody that you know to come sit on all these different boards, and then to take on the job yourselves of managing all of that. I want to be on the city council, and I want to be on the Board of Adjustments. Oh, really? You didn't sign up for that, but you can do it. So I think as the place grows, you're going to find that being on the city council is a full-time job anyway, and it may already be.
Ideally, if you made the Board of Adjustment statutory, and you form a committee to serve as that, a board to serve as that, then it takes the politics out of it to the extent that they make the decision, they hear the issues, not the council.
And I think that one of the reasons it might have been this way in the statute is because type A cities are generally small. They're 2,000, 1,500 people, and the legislature understood trying to recruit 5 or 6 or 10 people out of that many folks is not really practical. You probably can't do it. But this place has got 5,500 people in it, and in 4 or 5 years, it's going to have 8,000 or 10,000 folks. And so, I mean, spreading the wealth around a little bit and letting everybody do it might be what you'd want to do.
Absolutely. Seems to me like it'd be the desirable thing to do.
But it all started out very innocently, thinking I was just going to be able to hand a piece of paper or maybe come and have a meeting with people when they've been appointed. And then the research is just...
Well, and like you said, when you get to the point where you're trying to appoint kinfolks to these different boards, well then that, I don't know if that's, because there's no money involved with finances as far as these positions, but nepotism, in the sense that it has that connotation.
Sure it does.
So, even though you do it because you can't find anybody else to do it, you know, that you still can be an issue.
But you would want to get a couple of people that aren't even elected, that are buddies on the board, and they're running everything. They make that decision, whatever they want to do is the way it's got to be. I mean,
well, but see,
I've seen that already.
You definitely want to get
in
a
this
couple
town.
of house builders on it.
The Board of Adjustments and the Building Standards Commission have to have super majorities in order for anything to pass. That means 4 out of the 5 members have to vote for it, or it doesn't go. And that's pretty significant, particularly if you got one person absent. It's got to be unanimous. So that's the, Mr. Mayor, I think that's the stopgap for getting 3 guys who are the 3 amigos and putting them on the Board of Adjustments, and they'll all be contractors or builders. Nothing against those folks. They're what make life go around. But then they're kind of running your boat, and you look up and you go, well, there's more variances than we got ordinances here. How did that happen?
Yeah.
So that's the problem. And there's a fix for that too. Yeah. When you appoint people, that's the orientation. You say, hey, this is the way this works. We got ordinances for a reason, and you only can grant variances for this specific purpose right here. It's got to be a hardship. And if there's not a hardship, you can't do it.
Just wouldn't want to get in a position where somebody that worked at Brahms or something is trying to tell Harrison Walker how to build a building or something, you know? Or vice versa.
Well, we'd run that problem even on the city council. I mean, people get elected, they don't have any background in building. So you guys y'all have the same issues. And it's just a matter of, from here, you guys tell me how you want it written up, because you're the guys that are having to do all this. day after day. You got elected to do something one time a month, and now it's 4 times a month. And when budget workshops come around, it's every night of the week for 2 weeks. So there's significant time investment.
So if we get you to rewrite it, do we need to tell you everyone that, what all we need, the changes?
No, if I can take out the Board of Appeals and put Board of Adjustments in there pretty easy.
Right.
And then you just need to kind of decide, do you want, and I can reference that, and then it only takes one like magic word, magic phrase that said the Board of Adjustments is established pursuant to the magic section in the local government code. And then you know it's statutory. So I can give you an outline for what it would look like, and maybe even give you a little diagram of what everybody's going to be doing and where it's going to be. But right now, it's real hard for staff to figure out if this comes up, if this is like a change in a plat, or if we're doing a zoning variance, or changing the classification of somebody in the zoning. Where does it go?
Right, do we go to zoning or do we go to the...
To go to zoning?
Yeah, appeal.
And I can tell you what we've been doing, but I don't know that what we've been doing is what we should be doing right now. So I can draw something up.
That'd be good.
And say, here's what it looks like, and if you choose choice A, then here's what would happen. And always under code right now, you can always appoint yourself, Mr. Mayor, to be the building adjustments, the Board of Adjustments. That's the advantage of being a type A city. You can say, we're the city council, we want to manage that, we can do it. And it just lets everybody else know kind of what their job is. Because if I was helping to give an orientation to planning and zoning, it would be like forever. You'd say, well, if it's this, you might do this, but then if you're the Buildings and Standards Commission, you're going to be doing this. But now over here, if there's not one of these, then that's your job too. And it loses, like you guys are going right now, who cares? I don't want to hear this crap. Yeah, and think about somebody that's on one of these boards that you've asked to come down here on a voluntary basis. I mean, just, nah, they're going to lose interest pretty quick.
This whole thing's like being on a figure eight.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do it.
So the idea here is for you to draw this up, have the options for the next council?
Sure. And I would really like to do something like in, what is this, March, April? So if we're going to try to do this orientation to people, we can get it lined out. And Tricia and I kind of know which board is responsible for what, and get the scheme lined out forever and ever. So I can do that. I don't need any action. I'm just letting you guys know, and then I'll work on it. Hopefully I can get it before the next board meeting so you guys can start thinking about it. I mean, before the next 2 weeks, so you start to think about it and ask questions, okay? I'm good.
Move to item 8D, bids to repair Old Clarksville Road.
These are some of the street repairs that I and the street commission would like to do. On Old Clarksville Road, street commission voted to have J&L paving repair this in the amount of $9,462.
Is the old Clarksville or is it Pioneer?
You want to talk about that now? Old Clarksville.
Oh, okay.
There's just several different sections of bad.
Whereabouts is it?
Old Clarksville? About the 6,400 block. there's some sections through there where someone was building a house out there. They brought a bunch of big heavy trucks through. Tore up several different sections through there. We went in and did all the demo, rebased it, packed it. Now I just need to get the asphalt and let them back on top of it.
All right, crazy question.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, thank you. It's hard to figure out because one of them's doing it by the square foot, the other one's doing it by
The sections
feet.
they measured off, yeah.
Yeah.
The sections are cut out and they're asphalt. I mean, gravel sections right now, so whatever they bid, they gotta cover up, so.
And the street commission recommended J&L.
For 9462. Drake's bid was, I think, 13,840.
Mayor, I move to go ahead and approve the bid to repair Old Clarksville Road. We had J&L paving in the amount of $9,462.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Thomas, seconded by Councilmember Jordan to approve bids to repair Old Clarksville Road by J&L Paving in the amount of $9,462. All in favor? Move to item 8E, bids to repair Sleepy Hollow.
Okay, Sleepy Hollow is a section of street from, from Lake Shore back east. It's a section we just haven't done yet. We did all the drainage up to that point, and we just need to go ahead. We're looking at the best ways to do the asphalt topping on it. Street Commission discussed it, decided to go with the bid from J&L for $25,820.
Is that compared with the number 2? Or the number, I guess probably the number 1. Really.
They've had a couple different, I told them to bid it that way and give me another option, and they had a couple other options, but this is gonna be the best option because if you go, the cheapest one on here was just the asphalt overlay from J&L, but that's not milling anything. The road's already about 4.5 inches higher than the curve, so it's not gonna mill it back and level it down, so that's why we went with the option 2.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the bid from J&L Paving in the amount of $25,820 to repair Sleepy Hollow.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jordan, seconded by Councilmember Thomas to approve the bids to repair Sleepy Hollow to J&L Paving for an amount of $25,820. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8F, bids to repair Pine Mill Road.
Okay, Pine Mill Road, this is the section right in front of the golf course, around the corner.
All right, that's my question. Did we fix this last year?
It's been,
Or year before?
2 years before, 2 years ago. All we did was just blade patch it.
That was it?
That was it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We spent like $2,000 or something, just patched all the way around the corner and raised it up a little bit. This is to go in and redo the base where the base failure is, from, I don't know if they have on here, how many feet it is.
Right there on the S-turn, right?
Yeah, it'll start kind of down the hill, just past the concrete place there. Humphreys, and this will go, continue all the way up through the corner, around the corner, and down a little bit past the driveway there. The gentleman lives back in behind the
Red and Bat Wells.
Red that way.
Time out. Okay.
Yeah, that section, 526 feet, I believe. That's installing base, ripping that up, putting new base down. It's actually going to widen that road a little bit right there around the corner.
It needs it.
See, I could have swore, a couple of years ago, it wasn't just laid patch right through there, because it was down to the gravel, right through there.
Up on the hill, the next section up, you come down that hill.
Okay, right before you get there.
Stopped it. We're going to be picking up from that point and going up and around the corner.
Okay.
So we had to do the same thing on top of the hill because the base was failing and the road was shifting. It was just settling down with a big hole there. So, and this is kind of doing the same thing. There's not any base rock in it. That's the problem. So some places we can get by with not much base, but on these corners and hills and stuff is where we're having problems. We got to get some base under them.
Is that gonna be the same material you used at Mansfield Road to Henning Drive?
Yeah, it'll be the same material.
A lot of compliments on that area.
It's really good too.
Yeah, and this will just move us a little bit further that way. Right now, we don't really have any issues between that golf course and Mansfield where we did all that work, but that'll be, if we have any problems, we can go on from there.
Might not be a good thing having smooth road through that curve.
We've discussed
They're
that.
taking it at 60 now.
We've discussed that in the past.
Law enforcement kind of likes the actual speed bumps and potholes get you.
Exactly. But some people yelling this over here and yelling this
Straighten
over here.
that curve out.
Yeah, we could try to straighten it out some.
And that property just sold too, right there we're talking about.
I know it. Didn't even know it was for sale, or I would have bought it. It sold like a day it come up for sale.
Wasn't there long.
Well, Mayor, let me go ahead and approve the bid to repair Pine Mill Road at the golf course through J&L Paving in the amount of $50,338.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thomas, seconded by Councilmember Brandenburg to approve bids to J&L Paving in the amount of $50,338 to repair Pine Mill Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8G, purchasing a historic cemetery designation plaque for the Reno Historic African American Cemetery.
I guess I'll speak for this. This was one of Amanda's items, and if you notice in your packet, all the hard work that she and Shay have put into trying to get the cemetery on the map, and they've actually finally done it. And the Historic Commission, they sent notices to all the people around the area to let them know that there is a cemetery there. And they're actually doing a lot more work for this, but basically, she's wanting to get some kind of a plaque to put out there at the cemetery for recognition for the cemetery. I don't know what kind of plaque she has in mind, but they are wanting to put something out there.
We don't want cost or whatever, because we don't know just what it is.
I don't know.
Seemed like they'd put one of those Texas historical markers with, like, you know, they put everywhere.
I bet they would, but I bet the state doesn't provide those. But there's a cost on that. I don't know.
I'm sure there.
Because if you get designated,
Pay for them, yeah.
but Looks like the folks that sent the letter ought to be able to tell you.
I think that you have to buy those, because at the bottom of every one of those, if you'll look, it has like provided by and the name. It's real small.
Yeah, there's a
Or
cost.
approved by or something like that, and it has a name.
But they're coming right along with this cemetery. I don't think all of the trees have been cut down just yet. They're still working on some of the trees. This is big progress. I mean, Amanda and Shay, they worked really hard on trying to get the cemetery on the map. And they've done it.
I'll donate the designation plaque. It's like the ones on the side of the road. Real nice deal.
Hey, Trish, can you call to find out what, there's these people that sent the historical commission letter saying congratulations, you're now designated as a historical cemetery. Can you call and find out about signage and what it cost and if it cost?
I will.
And then send the bill to the mayor?
I will.
That's right. They'll take an out-of-state two-party check. Get two of them.
Two of them. Yeah, Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the purchasing of historic cemetery designation plaque for the Reno Historic African American Cemetery, and for donations accepted and by the mayor himself donating. So I guess we'll motion for that. That's on there, so.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jordan, seconded by Councilmember Thomas, to approve the purchase of a historic designation plaque by the mayor, donated to the city. All in favor? Item 8H, update on Keep Reno Beautiful and Trash Off.
I'll speak on that again for Amanda. I was here for the Parks and Trail Committee when she addressed this issue. It's coming up again. You all know that the spring cleanup is April 8th and 9th. They're gonna have the trash off on the 8th, and they're also gonna feed everyone at the park like they did before. So anyone that would like to help clean up trash, and she said that they always have a competition to see who could find the strangest thing on the side of the road when they're picking up trash. Last year they found a full set of dentures. So,
I don't even want to know.
yeah.
Did they dig underneath the dentures? See if there's anything else there. Jimmy Hoffa wore dentures.
For the trash off? What? For the trash off, I don't really remember the times, but I think that they were meeting at 7 in the morning, and I don't know when it finishes. I don't know that then. But for the cleanup, it's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. here at City Hall.
Yeah, 7 or 8, I think, isn't it? I think it's like 8 to, it's normally done about 11, so.
Okay.
That was the 8th, you said?
Yes. April.
Is it a costume party as well?
It can be. You dress up and show it.
Just wondered.
Move on. Item 8I, proposal for mass notification and public alerts.
In your packet, we put some information for a different mass notification system that I came across back in the fall. Went to it's a Homeland Security meeting we have every other month, once a quarter. Have been not pleasant. There's a guy from this company there did a presentation. Sounded pretty interesting. Talked to the guy just briefly. In between some other things that we had going on at that meeting, and he kind of gave me a ballpark price, which was a lot less than what we're paying for Blackboard. So I kind of was interested in it. When the former city secretary was here, Ms. Wright, I actually set up a demo online with the salesman, went over the product, locked it again. When she left, was able to finally get Tricia involved, looked at it a little bit more in depth. It was actually my second time to look at it, really. The presentation I saw at the Homeland Security meeting was not really a presentation. It was like, they didn't really show us a whole lot. It went up in screenshots, some different things. This system, the New Jersey-based company, they were used during Hurricane Sandy a few years ago. According to their data they give out, they put out, over that period of that storm, they put out millions and millions and millions of messages, as you can imagine, in the New Jersey area, with a very high success rate. For a community like ours, their infrastructure is more than big enough to handle Reno, Texas. What kind of interested me with them was their price, and the fact that they do a lot more than Blackboard does. We pay $28 something. $28.33 a year for Blackboard. The proposal we got from Swift 911 is $1,675 a year. On the emergency standpoint, for this new system, something we don't have with Blackboard, when the weather alerts go out over Blackboard, I have to manually do those, depending on what the warning is, what the situation is, different things. With Swift 911, I can set that up to do it automatically, a lot like Code Red does with Paris, or Lamar County now. Lamar County has Code Red. The thing different between Swift 911 and Code Red will let you do warnings based on the warning box, not just the county. It details it down to what the warning actually is. So in other words, if you're in northwestern part of Lamar County and there's a storm coming for the southeastern part of Lamar County, the folks in southeastern Lamar County will get the warning, not the folks in northwestern Lamar County. It separates it out better that way. That way you don't have the cry wolf effect when you have all these phone calls going out. Swift will let you do that on that amount of detail, and it will also let you do that depending on what type of storm warning it is. So if it's a advisory versus a storm warning, I can tell it, well, I want those to go out to the whole county, or I want those to go out to just Reno, folks within that warning area. There's a whole lot more detail of how you set up the warnings, the automatic warnings. You can actually also have some warnings go out automatically and some go out manually, which for Code Red, it's either all or nothing. You either have all go out automatically or all go out manually, if you can't pick and choose. This system will let you pick and choose about how you want to do it.
The people who've already signed up for Blackboard,
They would be automatically.
It goes automatic over them.
They can easily transfer them over, and don't forget your cell phone. You can use that for sending out your messages. You can send an emergency message from your cell phone.
Right. There's an app that Blackboard has an app too that will allow people to send out messages with the app. The 911 outage for AT&T Wireless the other day that went out, I sent that out from the house on my phone. Swift will still let me do that. There's a list. Did you put this list in that packet? Don't have that list without all the paper marks on it. Yeah. There's a lot of this list. I say a lot of it. There's some things on this list that Swift 911 does that Blackboard will not do. Some of the things like system users, create unlimited users. We can't create unlimited users with Blackboard. We can only have however many, I think it's 1 or 2, maybe 3. Text to opt-in. What that is, some of these, you've seen it advertised different places for some big events. Text this ever short code to whatever number, and you can get alerts for whatever event there is. Swift 911 will let you do that. Blackboard doesn't offer that. Different sub lists. Blackboard, I think, will let you do some, not as many as Swift 911. Contact fields and filters within your contact list. You can filter some through Blackboard, not as much detail as it. This thing will let you drill down information to the nth degree. I mean, it's almost, we were looking at it, I don't think it would be hard to use once you got used to it, but it's got so many different data fields in it. It would take some time to learn it.
And they,
when you put a contact person in it, for instance, say somebody calls in and says, "Hey, I want you to sign me up for the new system." I can set up customizable fields within our contact list for whatever I want. Storm shelters. The big example they use was people with special needs. You can set that up, and you can make lists within your contact list searchable. That way, we know who has a storm shelter, who doesn't, who has special needs and who doesn't, who's elderly, who doesn't, who needs oxygen, who doesn't. Those type things that will help during an emergency. If we have a neighborhood destroyed by a tornado, we would like to know what the storm shelters are. That way, if we got people trapped with debris in their storm shelter, we can go to those places. Voice alerting. I'm trying to think. One thing I like, Chris, you like it too. It'll let you type a message into there to send out. It'll let you can automatically translate it to up to 40 different languages with a click of a button. You just translate it. Again, the short codes, it'll let you use short codes for texting. RSS feeds, it will let you post directly to a website. I don't think Blackboard does that I know of. Do you? I don't think it does. Some of the enhanced features on that list, inbound hotlines. The system, when you sign up for it, it gives you 2 800 numbers for hotline numbers. And the scenario they threw at us and said, imagine you had a boil water notice for the city. You put out a message over the system that says, "Hey, you have a boil water notice until whatever time. For more information on a boil water notice, call this 800 number." But then in that 800 number, you can set up a phone tree that says, "Hey, City of Reno is under a boil water notice for whatever time frame. For information on how to cook during a boil water notice, press 1. For information for bathing, press 2. It lets you. There's a big customer service feature with that. We don't have with Blackboard. Conference bridges, it would give us that. It's something we don't have. We want to do mass conference calls. The one big thing I like, if we set up lists for employees and we want to do call outs for employees, we can put in that message, press 1 or 2 to reply whether you got it, yes or no. You can do voting with it, with different things. Blackboard doesn't let us do that. I think it's a much better system. I think it has a whole lot more features that I think would be useful to us. Is there going to be a learning curve for it? Yes, there is. They have constant training online that's available. They'll train you at the beginning. If you have trouble sending out a message, you can call their 800 support number. They'll send it out for you.
Do they have any rep in the area at all that can come to this problem?
Their tech support does that. Their tech support does that.
Is anybody else using this that you know of in this area?
I reached out to the salesman and asked him who in Texas swapped from Blackboard to your system, and he gave us one so far, and I think there's some more. But LaPorte, Texas was a big
on the coast.
On the coast.
And they switched from Blackboard Connect to Swift Preach too.
And I did an email back and forth with the emergency management coordinator there, and she seems to really like it. And they looked at it the same reasons we did: more features, less money.
Well, according to this, is our Blackboard out, or have we renewed it?
No.
It was right on. I told them that this is going to you guys tonight.
Okay.
And it hasn't expired until I get back with them tomorrow to let them know.
Okay.
Most of those places give you extra time in case there's something going on.
Okay.
Yeah, it still works. It worked the other day. There's no problem with it. I log into
How
it.
transition take this transition?
Yeah, how long can they set it? That takes.
Then
4 hours. Best I remember him telling me they can do it pretty quick within a day. And it basically depends on our data. How much data do we have to download from Blackboard and upload into their system? We got about 2,000 contacts, and they acted like that was no big deal at all.
It's unlimited in the minutes on this.
There's
But I
no-
see down here below it says additional minutes if not unlimited.
No, it's all unlimited. And the good thing I like about this system versus a lot of other systems, a lot of other systems you talk to, well, you can get this many features for this amount of money. Then if you want more, you can have, hey, this much more. We can get automatic weather alerts with Blackboard. They're not as detailed as this. They're not as good as Code Reds, I don't think. It would cost us about $5,000 a year to do that. I don't personally, I never thought that was worth it. For this, I think it is worth it because it's less money. And because it lets us pick and choose how we want those alerts to go out. Another nice thing this system does, and I've never heard of any system doing this, you can tell it how many callbacks to give the person before they answer. So in other words, if you get an alert at your house by a storm warning, if you don't answer it, I can tell it to call you twice, once, 3, 5, 10, however many. I think there's a limit on it, but.
More than once, anyway.
Right. And if we get annoyed by it and people say, hey, I don't want my, I can shut it off at once. Now, that would be message wide, it would be just for that one house, for that one phone number. But it allows us to do that, and there's not very any that I know of that allows us to do that. There's even an app for the citizens. Sign up, pretty simple. A lot of it, as you know, is electronic. Done through smartphone. If people don't have smartphones, you can call in. They can call in, and we can manually put you into the system. Same way as Blackboard does. Sign up's pretty simple, the same as Blackboard. It's flexible. We do it most different ways. But it's something I thought was worth bringing y'all. We talked about it. The money's in the area. It's less than $3,000. So it's in the area where we didn't have to bring it to y'all, but it was a new contract, it was a new vendor. It's kind of a big deal because it is a mass notification system, and we thought it'd be better to bring it to y'all, get y'all's opinion, let y'all see what we're looking at. I think it's a pretty fair deal. I really do.
What I'm seeing here, Chief, it's you got the $250 setup fee and the $16.75, so that's $19.25. So we're still $700, $800.
Right. And then after next year, it's just $16.75 a year.
There's more, costs less.
Right.
Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the chief's recommendation that we approve the proposal from Swift Reach for our mass notification public alerting system at the cost of $16.75 plus $257.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jordan, seconded by Councilmember Thomas, to approve a proposal for mass notification change to Swift Reach in the amount of $1,675 and a $250 setup fee, totaling $1,925. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 8K, update bids on public works building.
As far as the update, other than the financial part of this, met with HWH last week, the week before last, right after this council meeting. And give them the okay to go ahead and start on engineering and architectural design. So they're started on that. Tomorrow, there's supposed to be their surveyors will be here tomorrow. Start doing the surveys and get everything lined out. Other than that, I guess we just was going to discuss the financial. We don't have enough time. Financing, I guess.
I can hardly make heads or tails of this.
I sent that out to you guys on Friday.
And I've looked at it since Friday. And
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can help just a little bit.
because one is supposed to be a 7-year, right? And the other one's supposed to be a 10.
Correct.
Yes.
But
On the 7-year, where it shows the series 2017 tax note in the center, that's where they're including this loan, this tax note in the center where it shows series 2017 tax note for their principal to interest rate.
Oh, okay.
That's where they put that. And Hilltop, they did theirs a little bit more confusing than government capital. Because if you look at the main front page here, where it shows the tax note series 2017, sources and uses of funds, the preliminary. Now, we originally asked them to give us an estimate for $440,000 loan. That's the $400,000 building plus the $40,000 engineering fees. And if you look down below, the deposit to project refund, they put $405,000, and the cost of issuance was only $35,000. They did it this way so that the issuance cost wouldn't increase. If they put that $440,000 in there, that would be a lot more. So that's why they did it this way.
How much more did they say?
No, he said it would be quite a bit more. I know. So then the next page, that is where I just explained to you, it's in the center there, that's where they figured in the principal payments, the interest rate, and then the total for each year to make those payments. And then the next page is the 10-year, and no, I'm sorry, that's the explanation of the issuance costs. That shows where they pay the financial advisor, the placement agent, bond counsel, everything included in that. And then the next one is the 10-year. They did the same thing there. And in the center, that's where the Series 2017 certificate of obligation would begin. And that's where our payments would start. Government capital made it pretty easy for us. Which this is, government capital is who we have our water meter project note through. They've been very easy to deal with, and just, if you look at the first one here where it shows the $261,000 note, this is just going by, and I wanted to present this to you guys. Jerry, Judy, and I, we all looked at it. We thought if council approved maybe putting $200,000 down, and then this would be the note, the $261,000 with the issuance cost. The annual payments for 7 years would be $41,341.31. That's just one option to throw at you guys.
I think that's a good idea, $200,000 down. What I'm wondering though is, because you've got on government capital, you've got all these fees, financial advisors and all that, the payback, if you did that, would be $289,000. If you take the 341 times 7, annual payments times 7. And I'm wondering if, and that's at 2.65% interest, in addition to the $21,000 issuance cost?
Yes.
Where Lamar National Bank is charging 3.75%. I don't know, we might be able to look Reggie crossways and get it down a little bit more. But Lamar at $400,000 on 7 years is $66,000 annual payment.
How much on them?
$66,029 annual payment. And if we're gonna pay $200,000 down, I'm assuming that if you did $200,000 at 3.75, that annual payment would roughly be half of the $66,000 because it's half the note. And $33,000 roughly at 7 years, 7 times 33, would be $231,000 payback versus $261,000.
Keep it local too.
Going through the bank,
Keep it local
through the bank at the interest rate they have now?
at 3.75. Now that's me just cutting from 400 down to 200 and from 66,000 annual payment, I'm assuming it'd be 33,000, roughly, half.
They're not gonna charge the issue cost.
That's right.
Or the generation cost either.
Yeah, you're paying a higher interest rate, but you're not paying all this issuance and the financial advisor and all that. And you're local. And they do 7 years on cars. Every day.
I think that issuance cost, I believe what that is just a way to make it where the interest rate's cheaper.
That's it.
They're front loading the interest and the fees.
And makes it, look good, but
Yeah, I think you're right. Right, front loaded.
I mean, they could just figure it up, assurance cost of whatever, and no interest. You just pay us back in block, payments.
So,
If you put $200,000 down, you're gonna get a lot better rate than 3.75, I can guarantee you.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, when I spoke with Reggie that day, he said that could fluctuate some. That's just market.
I think
If
it might-
puts it in right now, that's what it's gonna give.
Very well could.
Market is just 3.
Yeah, very well could come in at 3.5 anyway.
If you went with the bank, then you can move it into like a builder's loan. So they'll approve it for however much we want. They start building it. And then once they're done, then we would have the final. Then we could get the loan for,
You do interim.
right, instead of saying, well, we think we might need this and get the loan and come out ahead or behind.
And interest gets high though when you pay an interim loan.
Well,
see,
you used to do a floor plan on it.
And ours is gonna be a bid project, so you're gonna know
Yeah.
what the number is right there. So, I mean, at that point, depending on how far along that is.
True.
I mean, I don't know how, if that makes a difference.
There's some hiccup somewhere.
Well, yeah, and we added, that's why the loan amount we put in was with the 10% added. Like I said, they said if we go 10% one way or the other, just put it in there. It's figured in.
And this is if we want to eat the $34,000 or whatever, 38,000.
That would be added in.
Or we could just eat it and do 200 to keep the note down, Say we borrow $200,000.
Yeah, this is just for the 400,000.
Yeah.
Which if we wanted, that's not with the 10% on the back end. That's just the rent. That would actually, with the 10% would equal the 440.
Yeah.
And whatever not used on there, whatever we can pay out on the loan.
When you close the note, then you pay back and close it in on a lower principal. Lower amount, finance. And the $200,000 down, we've got $250,000 that came back to us.
Well, originally, the plan when we first started this was to pay the money that we got back.
From the ice storm.
Down on the bill.
That's right.
Roughly 260. So, I mean, if we just make it 200,000, I think that'd make a big difference. That'd keep our payments down low enough.
And roughly $30,000 annual payment, $32,000, something like that.
We can borrow money anywhere for 3% interest with $200,000 down. That's a no-brainer.
We need to see what Reggie or whomever down there.
Well, they'll bend over backwards
Well,
to do it.
get them to write up some different estimates to, if we pay this down, if we don't, this is what we're thinking about going with these people, what kind of better interest rate could you give? Maybe, possibly, for 7-year, 10-year note, and then give us, more options to look at, and then compare, then we'd have a hard number really compared to this.
What, Jerry, they're gonna be here tomorrow to do the site plan. How long did they tell you that it's gonna be before they, to be ready
We're
to
probably
start?
looking at last part of April, sometime in May before we even get.
We've got time to get these
point of
numbers in
bids.
and have another
Yeah, we
meeting.
have time to
So-
work out this, however we make sure we get it right.
Progress.
So they say when they're gonna be done with the final drawing?
We're gonna have what they call a 30% meeting sometime this week. If you feel like they'll get to that point, or maybe the first part of next week. We'll take it that we'll have a 50% completion, probably week after week. It's probably gonna be weekly. They've got to send in for all the permits and everything. That process is possibly a month process to get everything approved by everybody that gets approved by it, as far as all the ADA stuff and everything that goes in this building, so.
The hard part's getting the permits from the city.
Yeah, we ain't got to that point yet. That's board set up.
Board of Adjustments.
Well, or the planning and zoning, or
This is where
maybe we'll
this
just have a
stuff
group
goes.
meeting. Just have somebody.
bad to say.
You guys are way too cute.
So,
Okay, so you want us to get with Marshall Bank and drop a couple different proposals,
$200,000,
paying money down, not paying money down to the interest
Yeah,
rate.
no,
principal $200,000.
yeah, we need like the
7 years, 10 years.
7-year, 10-year, full amount, and half amount. Be the easiest way to.
I will get around tomorrow.
And then
We'll get started.
I'd also ask, like, what kind of options they have. Like I said, once we're approved, that we don't have to start the paperwork, start the payments or anything until after it's built. In other words, like getting a building.
Like an interim financing.
Right.
90 days down.
Right. It's like floor planning, or whatever they call it.
We don't want to start making payments on 3-4 months.
Yeah.
before-
Right, until we get a,
Well, if you put your 200,000 down to start out, you can pick your own options, start the payment in a year.
yeah, they don't
Yeah,
care.
you could do that. I'm sure that would be an option too.
Then go get it there.
Yeah.
Right.
They do have all of our money down there, don't they?
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to move it down.
Textbook got $105, so.
Okay, I think we've got an idea what you guys want.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
Nothing on that.
Nothing.
This meeting is adjourned. 8 o'clock.